welcome to Stankonia. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Cory.
And this week we will be discussing Outkast-Stankonia in celebration of their recent induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. A momentous occasion for sure for Outkast fans and hip-hop fans in general to see a landmark duo such as this get their due in this way.
A landmark duo indeed. One of those ones that are so good that it hurts that they won't perform together anymore. And it's a fantasy for many, I would expect, but definitely for me. It was great to just see them standing next to each other on stage at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yes, it was very nice, but Andre is more into his flute albums now.
He is fluting it up. He's fluting it up.
Yeah.
They just went their different ways. And in my opinion, and we're sitting here talking about it, this was the start of that fray. This was the start. This album was the beginning of them, not in a negative way, but it more so in a creative way here. Everybody was flapping their wings fully, and they were both starting to go in different ways, in my opinion.
Well, we see that for sure after this album, but we're not quite there yet. So we're doing Stankonia, which is their fourth studio album, released in the year 2000, so 25 years now. It's been released on Halloween of that year, so that's pretty cool.
That was one that threw me, but I didn't remember it being a Halloween release.
Yeah. And with this album, it seems that Outkast went the farthest into the mainstream that they had up to this point. Like taking what they've done before, kind of, and wanting to put in some new influences. Very diverse sounds that we're hearing. We've got rave music, gospel, rock, funk, along with the dirty South hip hop. This is actually the first Southern hip hop album we've done here because that came up as a prominent subgenre of sorts and movement in the late 90s while the East and West Coasts were going at it. We also had the Dirty South, the ATL.
Dirty South, and I know I've said this before on this podcast, but Dirty South was not my preferred subgenre of hip hop back then. And in fact, for me, Dirty South was more about wearing timber, more about flashiness. It was all about giant chains. For me, in my opinion, Dirty South brought the real look of the giant gaudy chains when No Limit used to wear their tank chains, and it was not my cup of tea back then. I always have enjoyed more lyrically based hip hop, and they were a little bit too rough around the edges is the nicest way I could say it. But these guys were an exception to that for me. And I think for a lot of people, and they really bridged the gap here right before this album because Raekwon was on Aquemini, and Aquemini was successful. It was a hit album, but they really bridged that gap between Dirty South and, for me, lyrical hip hop, but more so that East Coast scene. Period. So this was the baby. This was the what came out of this success of Dirty South hitting the Wu-Tang scene, but period, the mainstream hip hop scene. I mean, even Aquemini's cover, if you look at it, was like old school indie style art, almost bordering on like what you would see on like the movie posters for blaxploitation films. And then jump to here, we get this shiny image of them in front of a flag.
Yep, it's a black and white flag. It's a different kind of flag than you might be used to seeing, but it's definitely a switch from previous album art. And in this case, they're creating a concept of sorts with Stankonia being a place in their mind to kind of frame the album. And Each of Outkast's albums up to this point had charted well. Aquemini actually made it up to number 2 on the Billboard 200, even if it didn't have major pop hits like this one ended up having. And it's probably their most acclaimed album overall, even more so than this one, which is acclaimed in its own right, part of why we are doing it today. And it's thought of as more chaotic than their previous albums as well.
It is, and, it comes from being able to purchase your own studio, do your own thing. You already started to talk about it, but really touching every genre you could think of throughout this was unique in itself, period, inside of hip hop albums, for me at least. But chaotic was the word here because there are a lot of sounds here that you didn't get in previous Outcast. Even tempos, I mean, really across the board. So chaotic is a great way to put it, even though this chaos for me was what I was looking for.
Yep, and a lot of people were looking for it turns out. So upon release, Stankonia debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200. It sold over 525,000 copies in its first week, so gold in 1 week. And it was behind Jay-Z's The Dynasty, Rock La Familia by a really slim margin. Only like 30,000 or so copies separating the two in terms of sales. And this really surprised me. This album actually debuted ahead of U2's All That You Can't Leave Behind. Yeah, so that's how big they've gotten at this point. To even go ahead of U2 shows that people really wanted this new music. And at this point in the US, it's now gone 5 times platinum. And it's also gotten gold certifications in the United Kingdom, Norway, New Zealand, and Australia. And it's gone triple platinum in Canada. So a worldwide success for a hip hop album, which is notable because hip hop doesn't always cross over out of the US as much as some other genres might, from what I've noticed.
Yeah, especially at this point, they were getting mainstream, bright, shiny videos and were in front of everybody. It's wild to see them that close to Jay-Z at this point because he was a powerhouse by then, in my opinion. But by this point, he was already set. At this point, they were really hitting this mainstream stride. I'm not going to say their stride because they had been killing the game before this. But now everybody's eyes were on them. And I will say that's what they wanted because this and I say that because this album speaks so clearly to all types of different people and all types of different listeners. And that was definitely on purpose. Again, we go back to that elephant in the room of the ultimate breakup of them and how much of that was at the cost of making this eclectic, chaotic album.
Yes, and that's definitely something to think about. Like, how did this really work for the duo's partnership in the long run? But in the short term, it certainly paid off commercially and critically. This album, it's a regular feature on greatest albums lists. It's at number 64 on the Rolling Stone 500 greatest albums of all time list. However, the acclaim was prevalent at the time. This won Best Rap Album at the Grammys in 2002 and was nominated for Album of the Year. It lost to the soundtrack to Brother, Where Art Thou? And I mean, some might think of that as a snub, but two very different albums for sure.
Yeah, two very different, two at this point in the podcast, very different albums. Yeah, that's just good competition there. I wouldn't call it a snub either.
Yeah, yeah, it was a that was a bit of a dark horse there that we ended up seeing. But we're here to discuss Stankonia, and I'm ready to get into it because we got a lot of songs to get through.
We do indeed. Let's get at it.
Yeah, so This album does begin with an intro. There's going to be quite a few interludes here. So stay tuned for that. And on this intro, it is announced that we are going to Stankonia, the place from which all funky things come. And asking would we like to come? And I mean, it's a solid intro. It's not an individual track by any means, but it does set the tone for this album, and that's what a good intro does.
Yeah, yeah, it does its job here on a deeper level for me. Listen after listen after listen after billionth listen, it really does its job in a way of relaxing the listener. You get the face value Parliament Funkadelic George Clinton-esque intro here, and that's serves its purpose there. But as far as like relaxing us into a calm before this album unleashes is important too, especially with this one because there and it's the first time we'll see it. We'll see it some more, but there are some serious brash contrasts here that just smack you out of nowhere. And this one really lulls us into this calm before they give us our first smack.
Yep, and that first snack is entitled Gasoline Dreams, which is really a lament on the problems of America. And so Stankonia is maybe an escape, but we're going to talk about reality. And I feel that we get that based on the title Gasoline Dreams. One of the problems that people think of is gas prices. So guess we're riffing on that a bit. But a lot of slice of life references here throughout the song, and I think it's a solid opener to this album.
Yeah, it's a solid opener. It's a bold opener, especially for first time listeners, because it not only smacks us in the face like we were talking about, but it brings automatically right to the table. It brings an electric guitar sound. It brings a very, I won't say very upbeat compared to what we're used to from Outkast, but we also get more of a singing bit right off the jump here, which is something we're going to see a lot going through this album and something that building this elephant in the room, something that was new to the dynamic of the two of these guys. So something to watch for. This one it pumps through. It's a neat one for me because it really makes me think back to the time, and what was going on. And we talked about chaos earlier, but it was a chaotic time period for the world, or at least it felt heavier. And Andre was not afraid to take this opener or both of them. I tend to put more of the political stuff with Andre, but these guys weren't afraid to open this album up with a straight look at greed and the gasoline dreams here. It's a cool contrast to what I was talking about us getting from earlier dirty south rap, where instead of really worshiping this culture of these giant chains and all that, we're doing a farcical look or a satirical look here in this just to the untrained ear anthem right off the bat on this first real track of the album, the second track of the album. So I've always dug this one. It's a unique sound. We get a lot of experimentation early on in the album, and it's good to hear here. It definitely sets the tone for this album.
Yes, and definitely want to know where we are going next. And it's followed by another interlude called I'm Cool, which is kind of seductive sounding, actually, but we're really just trying to go into a more laid back track here. So make of that what you will.
Yeah, the little blurb here. I'm cool lends itself ultimately, in my opinion, to Andre's ice cold lyrics that he's has made famous. But it's really just another one to give us a breather before we switch it up again. Again and again and again and again.
Yes. That we are. We're gonna have a lot of switch ups on this album, for better or for worse. So the next track is one you're likely familiar with, So Fresh, So Clean. This is the only track here produced by Organized Noise, who had worked on a lot of the duo's stuff, but this album is primarily produced by the duo and Mr. DJ. So we have this one callback to the earlier sound, I suppose, and well, a hit in its own right. This one was the final single from the album, and it made it only up to number 30 on the Hot 100, which is kind of surprising considering this song stuck around, but it stayed on the Hot 100 for 20 weeks, so that's good. Oh boy, hot tea take early on here. I've never really cared for this song. I don't know. I don't quite, I mean, I get what it's trying to say. I just never found that it's like a solid party song, I guess, but it's never been something I want to really go out of my way to listen to. So yeah, last time you didn't like Werewolves of London, I don't really like So Fresh, So Clean.
I heard that. So Fresh So Clean has always been more so a stylistic victory for them from me on this album rather than a true banger from Stankonia. By itself, great Outkast song. I'm not taking anything away from it, but when I say the stylistic or stylized victory here, it's their old it's their old run, which is great to see here, especially after we got a experimental track in Gasoline Dream. We really have that laid back Outkast sound here where they show how much they can do with a fire hook and a running hi-hat with just voice. You know, we sing in the hook here, but we get these boys on the mic like they always come through, but like they excel at. So it's really great to hear that here and get a nice Outcast track. Don't know. Actually, I'll do hot tea take here. If you don't put So Fresh and So Clean this early into the album, even with the track that follows it, I'm gonna say you don't get a real Outcast feel. So first listeners might be put off at this point in the album. It might sound early, but just it was that unique of an album for them that without their touch this early on, I think it really would have hindered the album in its entirety with its pacing.
Yeah, and it makes sense to put one of the obvious singles, I guess, towards the front of the album
Yeah,
because it's not as radio friendly after this segment here. Gonna say that now.
true.
Because, yeah, this one, they really, yep, but obviously I'm in the minority a bit on that one, but
I think you'd be surprised. I don't So Fresh and So Clean was an man, dare I say this, and I say this with all due respect. In my opinion, it was an MTV hit. Again, in my travels, it didn't resonate so much with the heads as it did with its newfound mainstream audience.
that that makes sense. I can see that. But speaking of mainstream, this that So Fresh, So Clean is followed by an even bigger hit, Miss Jackson, which is Outkast's, I'm sorry, Ms. Jackson, not Miss, Ms. Jackson. It is their first number one hit on the Billboard Hot 100. They'd have two more after this one, and a Grammy winning song as well. Um, Best rap performance by a duo or group in 2002, even nominated for Song of the Year. It lost to U2's Walk On, which actually, considering this was just a few months after 9/11, it's not surprising that that song won because U2 had a moment after 9/11 with their halftime performance and all that stuff.
Ew, if you wanna talk snub, this is a snub way more than album of the year.
I think you could say I would agree with that, but I understand why it went the way it did
Yeah.
because of the, because of the year. Like if it were another year, it might have gone a bit differently, but not at this point in our history. But this song does actually have the most interesting backstory on the album. It started off as an acoustic guitar song, but both of the duo, both Andre and Big Boy, pulled from their own experiences when writing this song. And Andre, interestingly, pulled from his relationship his with Erica Badu's mother, who is not actually named Miss Jackson, but it was a common enough name. And he, he was honest, like how he was thinking of like how does her mom feel about this situation, and that's what they're going for. I mean, Erica and Andre had a kid together. I mean, I'm sorry, Erica. I'm not on the best pronunciation game here today. My apologies for that. But now we got a big hit out of it, and Erica Badu even said her mom got a license plate that says Ms. Jackson. She embraced it, even though Erica herself had some difficulty with the song. But as for this one, I feel the acclaim and success is warranted in this case. I'm not under the impression it's an Outkast fan favorite from the reading that I've been doing, but as a hit, it works. I can definitely see why this song remains beloved all these years later, and I would say it's their best chart topper.
Yeah, hot tea take. If there are Outcast heads out there trying to say this isn't one of their favorites, maybe they came on this album because this is that shit. This is what they do best, in my opinion, and that is storytelling. Straight up. This is singer-songwriter, whichever way you want to look at it, but more so, this duo has such a great way of telling the same story, a relatable story from the perspective of two different people and intertwining this beautiful message. Well, on this song in particular, but whether it be, I can go catalog, but they tell such a great story together. It's what they've always done. And here, on top of this beautifully bizarre production that just is so amazing, but I feel like is so unique. And this song, Real Beat, is based on this reverse spin of a turntable and a sound that I would think the unconscious listener, or the I'm sorry, the subconscious listener automatically equates to linking songs. It's the sound you hear when the DJ spins the record backwards, like, and it goes to the next song. But here we drive on this sound underneath this beautiful story. It's a classic in my opinion. It has and will stand the test of time because the message is so real and so personal, but it is also so easy to relate to. It's so relatable. It's a masterpiece. It's a lyrical masterpiece, this song. I'm done giving flowers to this song, but goddamn, it's a good song. One of the best on the album.
Yep, it is. We're followed by a song that's quite a change in pace once again, even though there's no interlude to separate this one. We're following Ms. Jackson with Snappin' and Trappin'. This is a Big Boy solo cut, which I feel is proof of the duo beginning to fracture a bit creatively because this is not the only solo track from Big Boy on the album. Well, it's not a solo track, but it doesn't have Andre. It does feature Killer Mike and J Sweet, and this is Killer Mike's debut, and he's gone on to do quite a bit since then. So this is where it begins. And I mean, it's cool hearing them trade verses. Killer Mike definitely has a unique delivery for what we have heard so far. But yeah, it's not really much of an Outcast song, and it's really early on we're getting something that isn't really a full on Outcast song, and it's This one's not one of my favorites.
I hear you, and I think you're in the majority here, I would say, because for me, it's not that this isn't an Outkast song, it's more so that this is so dirty South, just Big Boy, Killer Mike, J Sweet, that it's not relatable like the rest of this album is to your average listener. I say that with all due respect here. This isn't a song for everybody. This is some gangster ass, dirty South shit. Like serious gangster get down. I like that because one, I like the contrast coming out of Miss Jackson. I mean, we were literally just on a song saying sorry to somebody's ma. And now we are snapping and trapping. We're getting at it. And it's a very, very brash. These are the ones I was talking about before. A brash contrast right here. Is it the best Dirty South track ever? Not really. For me, it's a great track. It's not anything stellar, outstanding. It's not something I necessarily come back to, but I can not deny that it's definitely from the roots of Outkast, some stuff that we would hear on early AT Aliens or Aquemini. It's way dirty for right here. And you're right, this is early on, or at least almost halfway, but it's definitely off-putting, as you can see from your experience. And I realize that, but I think that's why you're in the majority, or that's why I think you're in the majority. Don't take anything away from it, but it's it'll one that'll take you out of the album if you're not expecting it.
I wasn't expecting it and didn't end up growing on me, but it's followed by yet another interlude. This one is called DF, which stands for Dungeon Family. So that's a reference for the fans there. And this one has the duo introducing themselves by their nicknames. My personal favorite is Big Boy, aka Billy Ocean. That was my personal favorite of the nicknames. So it's a solid little transition to the next track.
Yeah, here it is, embracing that Stankonia narration that we got early on. That for me is really reminiscent of old Funkadelic. Um, it's a little cool one here, and it takes us into to our next track.
Yes, and that next track is Spaghetti Junction, which is a name for a highway in Atlanta. It's a nickname for it. So we're truly diving into the dirty South with this track. And I mean, this one really has Andre and Big Boy going back and forth rapidly, more so than we've heard yet here. And they're talking about like the realities of the street life, I guess, or in their neck of the woods. So it is a bit, there are common threads, so to speak, amongst the talk of the street life in different regions. But I do feel this track specifically highlights that for the South region, there is a difference between this and what we would hear on East and West Coast tracks, for instance. And I can appreciate it on that level. I'm not quite, it's not certainly not a song I personally relate to very much, and I respect that they're sharing their experiences on this track, but it's not one of my favorites, but it's okay.
Heard that. I this one's a deep cut for me. This one's one I come back to every once in a while. For some reason, it always, maybe the name, but it always gave me this spaghetti western type of feel. The beat sort of hangs on in the background like I would expect in a western type soundtrack, and I've always dug that. You talk about them going back and forth. For me, this is what I love to hear, and this is what they do best. Inside of 4 minutes, inside of 4 minutes, they crush. I should have counted. I'm almost positive three verses each, with like two fat long hooks in here, and you really get a full Outcast experience. This settles into the groove that I enjoy from them way more than like snapping and trapping when I talk about old Outcast. But this one is exactly what I come to expect from them. get a little tiny bit of East here, but you're 100% on the nose with this is just that South sound. It's something that it gets a little bit of West. We get a little bit of West throughout this album with some of the gangster lean instrumentals, and we get a smattering of this, but that's what I love about the South sound sometimes is you get East and West is what I'm getting at. And I think this track here showcases that the most. And with sticking with its Southern uniqueness.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I appreciate that perspective. Maybe I'll have to go back and listen to this one. But it's followed by yet another skit. There's too many skits on this album, but I will say, spoiler, this one's my personal favorite. This one's pretty funny. Kim and Cookie. This has two ladies gossiping on the telephone about a Minute Man. So just make of that what you will. It's a Minute Man. But this one gave me a chuckle. I'm glad this exists. And it does send us into a good portion of the album, I believe, too.
Yeah, it's a springboard here and a bit of levity inside of the gangsta shit that we've been getting, for lack of better words. Even though these girls get gangster on the way, they talk about this Minute Man, but definitely not one for the kids here. I'm a sucker for these comedic shorts on any hip hop album, period. So this was always one of my faves.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking maybe Kim sang "Hit 'Em Up" style "Oops" now, actually, after this skit. But we get a break, and we're on to the next song, which is about how outcasts are not Minutemen; they're going to be gentlemen. This one is "I'll Call Before I Come," and they're gonna let their woman know when they'll be there. Just yeah, it's about how Outcast likes. It's about how they go with their ladies in the bedroom. That's what the song's about. It features Gangsta Boo. This one's racy, man. That's just all I gotta say about it. I'm like, I don't know. This one's very not just lyrically. Actually, it's probably lyrically a bit tamer, but musically, this is very Prince-esque to me. And that's probably a reason for me why it's one of my favorites, because I do love Prince. And it's more so in the musical side of it, actually, than the lyrics. Because some of Prince's is actually much worse than this, but I it's pretty tongue in cheek too, so I can appreciate that. I don't feel that even though it is racy, I'm not it's I mean, I'm no prude by any means, but sometimes these kind of lyrics can be awkwardly done. They can be uncomfortable. I'm not uncomfortable listening to it because of the tongue in cheekness of it all.
Yeah, the tongue in cheekness is solely for the listener here because the word come is spelled the explicit way in the actual title. But these boys do the best giving you that beautiful levity. This is why Kim and Cookie came right before this, not only for the sexual innuendos or sexualness of these two related tracks, but more so because of the levity here. This is them hanging out and having fun, letting it all hang out is really where I meant to go there. And being raunchy. And this for me, I love where you hear Prince here because not to beat a dead horse, but this gives me that old funky, nasty stank of a good parliament. So I enjoy this one all the more. This was first listen back in the day, jamming on this album. This was my jam piece. I love this song. I would sing this nonstop, and not for lyrical prowess, not for anything more than the guilty pleasure of some funkiness behind some tongue-in-cheek levity. So this has always been a special one for me. Critically, though, for me, I've already said how closely it ties in with the interlude here. It does its job. We get these small pockets of pacing, and we haven't talked much about it, but it's not that this album isn't paced so far correctly, but it's only paced correctly because we only get these pockets of pacing is the best way I can put it. And this is another look at that, even though this, as Charlie said before, is going to springboard us into some more into a neater part of the album.
Yes, but also this is a bit off topic, but since we mentioned Parliament a couple times, I just did you see the Eddie Murphy documentary on Netflix?
No, I just finished the P. Diddy one. I'm going to Murphy next.
Oh yeah, well it may be a bit of a spoiler, but in this documentary I did get
Uh,
to find out that Eddie Murphy will be playing George Clinton in a biopic soon.
Really?
Yes.
Man, that listen, if you're gonna do a biopic about George Clinton, get ready, folks, because unless it can't be successful unless it's crazy, raunchy. Oh man, wow, that's gonna be a wild one. I think Eddie, that's gonna be awesome. That's gonna be awesome. I hope he does an amazing job. I'm almost positive he will.
Yep. No, I'm with you. I'm looking forward to it actually. Now I'm glad I know that is happening.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay. This one of the things that drives me crazy about this is with these some of these interludes make a lot of sense, but there are points where it almost feels like an interlude would be needed because there's such a shift, but we just don't get one, and that happens with this next song for sure. B.O.B, which stands for Bombs Over Baghdad. This one ended up being quite prescient, unfortunately. This oh boy. So this was the lead single of this album, and obviously it has a lot of concerns about the state of the world, and yeah, it got some more resonance during the Iraq War, which wasn't too far in the future from this point in time, but really the main influence of this song has been stated to be Rage Against the Machine, which makes perfect sense. But they bring their own twist to it. Like it's got a lot of rock in it, but it's also got their own sound to it. And this is probably the most chaotic one yet, but the chaos is deserved. We're talking about bombs over Baghdad. Because I mean, just what a song. This is one you've gotta hear to believe. I know Tyler, the creator, performed this at the Rock Hall ceremony because it is maybe not one of their biggest chart hits, but it's very possibly their most acclaimed individual song. Pitchfork actually named this the greatest song of the 2000s. And
Wow.
yeah, I personally wouldn't say that, but it is definitely a song you should listen to.
It's definitely a song you should listen to. Hot Tea Take, this was one of my least favorite songs the first time I heard this album back in the day. This one is a grower over the years for me. And I don't know why, because even with the eclectic track list we've seen so far, this one just never stuck for me back then. I remember thinking it felt real contrived back in the day. And I don't know if that was me sort of gatekeeping because they were going into this mainstream audience or whether it just didn't sit with me. I really have come to love this song over the years. And now, with us getting a chance to dive in and do research, I love this song so much more because, in my opinion, it got taken in the wrong context and got used for this and used for that. And it really got misconstrued when, and this is coming out of Big Boy's mouth, but I'm paraphrasing it. Basically, the thought process on it was that the US didn't rushed into its bombing and didn't talk to the UN, but they were more so using that as an example of, we talked a little bit about it, but how hip hop was hitting mainstream and you were seeing like a split between indie and mainstream rap groups and rap styles. So this was more of a hit at, from again from Big Boy's mouth, this is more of a hit at the machine, so to speak, and people rushing to quote unquote put bombs over Baghdad real quick just to make money and make shit tracks, which is wild because I would have never figured that out in a million years until diving into this. So it takes another level. You talk about thinking about an intro here. and how it would have been great. But this is another one of those brash contrasts that I was talking about. This is definitely a smack to the face, and it's intentional by this point. And I dig that. I dig those sharp contrast hits throughout the pacing of this album. So Bombs Over Baghdad does not disappoint in that aspect, really in any aspect. It's a great number 11.
Yep, and it's followed by a metaphorically similar track, Explosion. No E at the beginning of that. And this one features Be Real of Cypress Hill fame. And I interpret this song as just being about having rap battles. And you know what? Those could get pretty intense too. So why not put it after Bombs Over Baghdad? I mean, they get some good lines in. I definitely think this song is of its time. It's got references to Eminem and Saving Private Ryan, but it's a solid tune. I do feel it's hard to follow Bob's Over Baghdad. That's really where I'm at with it. So solid song, not the best, not the worst.
Yeah, it's a good follow-up, and it's really, for me, the only place it would have fit in so correctly on this album. As far as pacing goes, it's a cool one, man, as far as it being an awesomely produced, really cool feature. Having Be Real on this really adds that level. We've been dancing musically around this West Coast um real gangster funk musicality, and this brings it to the forefront. We're going to see a lot more of it, in my opinion, going forth from here. This is the first time also musically that I feel that we use the eights in a southern pattern rather than a west coast pattern, but we've got this west coast like lowrider funky wave synthesizer over top of it. So for that more as we get through the album, but this one really opens the door for it, in my opinion. It does its job. This is another one. This is an unsung hero, I feel like, on this album. Something that if you're looking for this kind of element, this kind of pumped upness, this kind of gangster lean, so to speak, it definitely delivers.
Yeah, yes, it does. And now we're on to the next skit, which is entitled Good Hair, which is likely referring to a weave. Wonder if the girl in this song's name is Becky. That's all I've got to say about this one.
Yeah, I mean, without giving too much away for the next track, we got another good little pairing of an interlude here. We don't know why first listen through, but we shall see where it all ties in a second.
Yep. Well, the reason we were talking about that was because the next track is "We Love These Hoes." It is spelled LUVDEEZHOEZ. Now, this is one could be easy to just kind of get offended by the title, but this is a very sarcastic song, which I am appreciative of because this could have definitely gone a different direction based on the title. But yeah, he's saying like from the weave to the fake eyes to the fake nails down to the toes, ha 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 ha, we love these hoes. It just kind of goes from there. Some more clever references and wordplay, which I appreciate. I do love the Herman Munster reference. That's probably my favorite lyric in this song. So yeah, this one is actually this is one of my favorites. I appreciate the humorous twist of this track, but this is one of the only ones that doesn't have Andre on it. So in terms of that, we're not getting the full Outcast experience, but good news is I still enjoy this one a lot because of its sense of humor.
Yeah, we're at another levity piece after a nice little intro. And even though we don't get Andre on this one, I really do feel an Andre presence throughout this. This is the ultimate satire track, or one of the ultimate satire tracks, because you look at our musicality again on this, and we're really pushing the line on almost a full West Coast beat, this gangster lowrider beat behind. And one of the mainstay lyrics for West Coast is "We don't love them hoes." So now we've got the South singing "We love these hoes" and satirically glorifying all of the things that these ladies don't even need. But they take them, we love them, and it works out well throughout this satire. Again, I'm a sucker for these levity songs, for these really fun laugh out loud tracks. So they get a win on this one from me.
Yep, and good news is that Andre is back on the next track, which is Humble Mumble, and this one has a notable special guest. We mentioned her earlier. One Erykah Badu is featured on this song. This probably isn't a hot tea take. I wouldn't be surprised if others felt this way, but when you see that a big name singer like Erykah Badu is going to be featured on the song, I assume that she'll be singing the hook. And she sings it with Andre. And I have a bit of an issue with that because it's all his presence is so large, it almost overshadows hers. And there are so many classic hip hop tracks with just a good female vocal guest spot if she's not doing the whole song, along with the interplay in this case of the two rappers. She does get a nice verse in there, but this one I feel is a case of some missed potential here.
Oof. I'm on the other side on this one.
Okay.
You know me, and you know I love me some Erykah Badu, and I love to see her gangster flag fly every once in a while because it's really cool when it comes out, and I feel like she gets to let it fly here on a fast hook and then gets her verse. I've always loved this song, whether she was on it or not. The way we come off this real Caribbean style backbeat, super fast tempo, and then fall on to almost like a b-boy breakdancing street beat in the middle is phenomenal. It flows, it matches the lyrics on each verse, the change of musicality, and I've always dug it. This is I look at the numbers and I say, okay, maybe it's not the worst of the unsung heroes, but if I'm giving 4 tracks off this album to somebody who's never heard it before, this is definitely one of them, and I'm not even telling them Erykah Badu's on this track. I'm just letting them go. Yeah, always love me some Humble Mumble.
Yeah. Now that we say it, we actually have not covered our Erica Badu.
That's crazy, man. I can't believe that. That's wild. We need to get some Erykah up on here.
Well, subscribe to us so you can stay tuned for 2026. Hopefully, you will see some Erica Badu. We got some spots we haven't filled in yet in our musical roadmap.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah. Think Neo Soul's a bit of a something we could have had more of. We haven't done the most of it
Heard that.
besides Lauryn Hill.
Yeah, no, we need to get on that. Whew.
Yeah, but
It's my
we're
girl.
not there yet. We're still with Outkast and their next interlude. This is just like listening to a Janet Jackson album with all these damn interludes. Oh my goodness.
It's just how it was back then.
Yeah, I can't say I miss these a whole lot. Oh boy, because we've got Drinking Again, which is just guys bitching about life and then they need a drink. And well, I can relate, as many of us can, I'm sure.
Yeah. 100%. You know, relate is a great way to segue into because this one directly relates to the next one. And we haven't, as much as they might be taking you out of the album, we can't deny the fact that these interludes have been pretty spot on. Sometimes, we'll get some interludes that are just out there for no reason, but these have really actually been little intros to each little coupling so far.
Yes, and for some, there seems to be some debate about whether or not this track is a full track or not, because it is a pretty short one. But for our purposes, it is a track, and it's simply question mark. And this is an Andre solo cut where he tells us that the answer to all of these questions is alcohol. Because he's got a lot of questions. I will say, I like his questions more than Jada Kiss's a few years later on why.
Boo.
I knew you'd love to hear about Jada Kiss. But yeah, yeah, I mean it's a nice little thought, but it's not a full track.
Yeah, see, I think it's a full thought. It's just a short track. And but I'll tell you what, going back and going through this album, I always thought that Drinking Again was the whole entire track, 16 and 17.
I
Because
can see why.
for me, that's the whole thought. It's this guy bitching, then you can hear the drink pouring, and then it's just stream of drunk consciousness, and it finishes with a drink pour and a fade out. So I say full track, but I hear you. I hear you. It's definitely the shortest we've seen. That's not an interlude. So I guess it will always be up for debate, but I think it ends a full thought, a nice little. Maybe it's a song that's an intro, that's a song that's an intro. No, not really, not for the next song. So, yeah, just a nice little coupling.
No, yeah, we are switching vibes with the next track, which is Red Velvet, which is not about cake, unfortunately, because red velvet cake is delicious, but it's more about showing off your excess and the dangers of that. Which I feel this is an important message for these guys to be talking about at this point in time because they were just climbing up the ladder gradually with each release and likely knew that this would be their biggest yet. And the one following it got even bigger. So it does make sense for us to discuss this concept. I do appreciate it in terms of that. I mean, yeah, it's a solid track. It's all right for me.
This is my gun to the head.
Okay.
It's my it just it never gets anywhere for me. It never gets anywhere. Musically, it never yes, there's an I understand the viewpoint here and I understand what they're saying. And I like the fact that you said that's important for them because it's a really good thought. But as far as this song here, it always falls flat. It always reminds me of the song Tennessee with people coming in and just doing their straight talk over top of it. It never sat right with me. And I really tried, especially through this listening through, to get somewhere with it. And it you want to talk about incomplete thoughts. This one for me, even musically, is just a bunch of thoughts put together. And it just falls flat. Gun to the head on Red Velvet. Sorry, Outcast.
I mean, yeah, it's not my gun to the head, but I wouldn't call it my favorite here by any means. But
Yeah.
my gun to the head's coming up, but not quite yet. We have some time. So next up, we've got yet another interlude with cruising in the ATL, which that's all it is. Cruising in the ATL. That's all they're saying, but that's their vibe, I guess. So it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it gives a little bit of nostalgic throwback and like even just the way it's presented to us with like a crackle behind it. Yeah, I can understand how it goes into the next track and maybe I'm missing something in the lore of ATL and the South, but I don't know. This one might be the weakest of the pairings as far as intros go for me.
Really?
Only because I feel like the next song could stand alone, be a smack like we've been really doing well throughout this record, and we didn't need the little blurb there.
Hmm. Okay. I mean, I actually think it flows pretty well into what we're getting, which because it's another unique track we get.
Or
Gangsta shit, which asks us, do you really want to know about some gangsta shit? But we hear about it anyway. Uh I mean, you know what? I don't think this is the deepest song on the album by any means, but I really enjoy the production on it and Good luck getting this one out of your head. Quite an earworm, this song is,
Yeah,
where I'm
it
at.
is a nice little hook here. Without the UFO type production that we've been getting throughout this album, and that's indicative of their style, period. This one is just a cookie cutter gangsta shit song. Maybe it was supposed to be like that, but this one, it's not terrible. It's not bad. It's a good song, but it's not great. And this late in the album, I feel like we start to not get these great hits. We get mediocrity. Whew, wow, I can't believe I said that, but I that's how I feel later on in this album, and this is one of them for me.
I mean, I I can see where you're coming from, but I don't take it too seriously enough to think of it as mediocre. I think it's supposed to be very tongue in cheek.
Heard that, heard that. I can see that. I guess it's the most gangster. Okay, I'll give a benefit of the doubt. I can give a benefit of the doubt there. I can see where you're coming from. It's just the most gangster, like cookie cutter beat behind. And if that's the satire and I missed it, I apologize. But I don't know. Not for me. Never has been.
I mean, I can see where you're coming from there. And generally about this last segment of the album, it hasn't been quite as strong.
Yeah.
Um, let's see if it improves at all with the next track, which is Toilet Tisha, which has been described as a somewhat updated version of Tupac's Brenda's Got a Baby. It's about a 14-year-old girl who becomes pregnant and ends up dying by suicide. This is my gun to the head, easily. I think this song's super tonally confused. I don't think it quite I don't know if it's meant to be a comedy or I'm sorry, not I don't know if it's meant to be like a sincere commentary or a satire, probably a bit of both, but I it does not stick the landing. I'm not a fan of this one at all.
Yeah. The only reason this one didn't get gun to the head for me is because it reminds me so much of what I loved about Spotty Dopalicious. And I really do like that echoey Andre flat narrative or naked narrative. But again, that's only because I really loved the callback to Funkadelic here, or the callback to George Clinton, where on Spotty Dopalicious, it was George Clinton. Yeah, this doesn't get gun to the head only for this fact of nostalgia and me digging some of the out there Andre 3000 shit. This is one of the ones where you really start to see that fray, and more so than you did with Spotty Dopalicious. Yeah, this is it's laughed about it because I went and talked to a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in a while, and we used to live off Outkast. And I was like, dude, I don't remember like three of the tracks. And I'm listening to this album at the end of the album. And he was like, yeah, I don't think we ever really many times made it that far into the album just because we knew we didn't want to be there. And this is one of the reasons.
That's fair. Is this a friend I know?
Ah, nah, buddy from back in the
Okay. I was wondering if it was someone I know.
nah, nah. All my Outcast heads are long gone, nowhere near here anymore.
Damn.
That's all
Damn.
good.
Yeah. But yeah, we're getting real close to the end here. Now we're at track 22, which is Slum Beautiful. And this song features CeeLo, now known as CeeLo Green. He went on to do a lot after this one, that's for sure. And this one's about how they're gonna please the ladies once again. Is really the concept of this track. And yeah, this is another filler track for me. This one, I'll take it over the last one, but nothing new here that we haven't heard already. And at this point, I'm ready for the album to be over.
It's wild listening to it and remembering now this wasn't never my favorite Outcast album, but like listening to it and being like, man, I don't remember this. I had to go back and make sure that I wasn't listening to the re-release with the extra stuff on it. And then just wondering why you would pair these two together because tonally they're so out there. The We've championed the genre blending and genre crossing throughout this album. Why would you stick both of these together at the end of this album is way too far out there for me. I'm down with experimentation, but you said it right there. Like for anybody listening, I'm ready. Come on, what do we got? We're at 22 right now, and you just put two slow out there. This whole entire the musicality on this track is 100% backwards. It's that old Jimi Hendrix style reversed riff. And for me, it's just a bit off-putting. Again, I like experimentation. I love these guys, but it's wild this close together and this far at the end of the album. It just doesn't work out.
Yes, and now we have yet another interlude, and at this point, I'm really over the interludes in case you can't tell. This one is called Prenup. So we ends up being a proposal and asking for us to sign a prenuptial agreement. I don't think this really leads into the next song that all that well. I don't get the point of this at all.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. It's another weak one. I said the last one was the weakness, but I stand corrected. This is really the weakest one as far as relation into the next song.
Yes, and the next one we're at the end with the title track Stankonia, parentheses Stank Love, which is a humorous love ballad of sorts. This one, I musically, I kind of like it. It reminds me a lot of Prince's slow jams, like Adore or Insatiable, gives me that vibe. So, in terms of that, I enjoy it. I mean, it's better than the past couple of songs that we heard here. Still, definitely not the best that this album has to offer. And I'm just at this point pretty exhausted listening to the whole thing and ready to be done.
Yeah, it's a long track too, 6
It
minutes and
is.
51 seconds. The only way this one gets points for me as a closer is dying on the hill of the funkadelic old stuff where you say old Prince, I hear old funkadelic here. I try to reach and give it the blast off mothership. You're now leaving Stankonia type of feeling here. But unfortunately, I've listened to it too many times to my liking. So throughout this critical review, and it never hits, man. It never hits. It's putting me to sleep at the end of this album, and it's wild. Again, I'll say it. It's wild to think how we never really even embraced this last grouping of songs on this album. Like it was started back over at least 4 songs ago. Yeah, not the maybe the weakest ending song we've heard in a long time on this podcast as far as a closer. And I usually will try to reach as far as I can to explain why it's a good closer, but this there's not even a climax to this track in 6 minutes. So it's a real tough closer for me. And I love these guys.
Sometimes the ones we love can disappoint us. Don't we? Don't we all know? But oh boy, there we have it. Stankonia by Outkast. We've been talking about it now for almost as long as the album actually is. So yay us.
Heard that.
Now, since this was your pick, I do, Corey, ask what is your grade and overall assessment of Stankonia?
Outkast-Stankonia, a wild one, man, a wild eclectic romp from a group, a beloved group on the start of their mainstream run. It really has some standout tracks, but unfortunately for me, the word "some" is the main word in that statement, and it's negatively put. For me, the lack of level in this album really takes away from it ever succeeding as a full whole album. It has too many of these pockets, and as much as I love experimentation, it really hinders this album from really ever getting off the ground. Even though I do enjoy the brash contrasts that we were speaking of throughout, s- some of those were not delivered or stuck the landing, as we like to say. This one, as tough as it is for me, this one gets a B minus from me.
Okay, I'm surprised we're as much on the same page. I'm gonna go a bit lower with a C because this was just in a lot of ways I think too long and not for me.
Yeah. It's wild. So it's wild to think back because, like I said, it was never my favorite album to begin with, but people really found Outkast on this album, and really, there are people that will die for some of these lesser tracks, and it always blows my mind because the catalog. I'm not trying to really take away from anyone's opinion here. I'm just stating where I've lived inside of it. Like their catalog speaks to a higher level than a lot of the stuff on here. And I think, in my opinion, it's because there were so many times that they were reaching rather than being the solid duo that they were coming into this album. Um, this one was a tough place in Outkast history, so to speak. I'm glad we did this one. I think that Aquemini is not necessarily as relatable to mainstream, and that's okay. If you enjoyed some of the sounds that you got on this album, I urge you to check out Aquemini. But I am glad we got to do this one.
I mean, I'm glad we got to cover it as well, though I'm ready to move on from it.
I hear you.
I'm a little burnt out on all of this now, but if you gotta pick a favorite track, what is it?
Miss Jackson, by far. Again, the highs are highs and the lows are lows on this album, but you can't take away from the genius that is Miss Jackson as far as a hip hop track.
We're on the same page again. That's the one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that is the one.
Sorry to any of the toilet Tisha fans out there, but
Man, I try not to laugh.
I can't help it. Okay, but now it is the holiday season, and we usually would do two Christmas albums, but this year it's kind of looking like we'll only have time to do one, unfortunately. But we're going to make it a good one that many of you will enjoy, we believe. So, Corey, can you let us know what the our holiday album podcast will be this year?
Coming together this year to pick one, we're gonna go Michael Bublé Christmas.
A modern classic. This is one you hear every year at this point, and very smooth, very cool voice. I'm looking forward to listening to this one.
Will it be as good as the Harry Connick Jr.? We'll see.
Yeah, or the Share, which he's featured on.
Heard that, heard that. We shall see.
We shall see. To many, probably, I think he's overtaken Harry as a Christmas king in recent years. I'm sorry to say.
Oh my gosh. Killing it. Sorry, Harry. Don't listen to him. Don't listen to him.
Hey, Bublé's he's been a Christmas king, I think, but
Nah, yeah, I won't take it from Bublé. He's definitely gonna be one that our kids are gonna be listening to the way we listen to Bing and the Boys.
yes, yes. So yeah, I'm looking forward to listening to some Michael Bublé. Perfect way to get into a holiday spirit. It's pretty crazy. This year, the main reason I'm looking forward to Christmas is the new episodes of Stranger Things. So this will get me in the spirit.
Heard that. Heard that.
Yes, but then that's what we're gonna do, Michael Bublé. And with that being said, well, don't have too many Christmas festivities until we do Michael Bublé's Christmas.
Peace.